Being a foreigner is strikingly similar to growing up queer, except you can't be killed for being a foreigner. I spent my most tumultuous adolescent years, middle school, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I don't look like a foreigner in Southeast Asia. One could assume I'd grown up there, and 9 times out of 10, people did. Friends' parents, wait staff, and taxi drivers not giving a second thought as they start speaking to me. Selamat siang, apa kabar? Nak minum apa? Nak pergi mana? Tense silence as I deliberate on outing myself or not. How long is this conversation going to take? Is it easier to fly under the radar this time? Will they know I'm different the second I open my mouth, the moment I stutter out a response? Not like a native speaker. Not like they expect me to be. Will they realize that the only reason I know what they're saying are the 100 previous interactions where I unwittingly deceived yet another person that I'm one of them? There's a small shift in people's eyes when they learn I'm a foreigner. It's almost never a negative shift, rather, it's a simple acknowledgement. This person does not understand. And they're correct. Everything from the language, the customs, the food tastes were mysteries to me. I'm just a foreigner. I could grow familiar with them, but I didn't have the experience that actual citizens do. I didn't understand. I'm not Malaysian. There were a lot of things I didn't understand back then. I didn't understand that when my friends said they liked Boy, they actually liked him. Didn't understand that they weren't just picking John Doe from 3rd period who has pretty hair to like that year. The realization came in 7th grade, when my peers were no longer content with unrequited schoolyard crushes. If you liked a boy, you asked him out. Except, I don't want to ask him out. I'm sure he doesn't even like me anyway, and isn't it the girl who gets asked out by the guy? Wasn't it more fun when we were just giggling about our crushes? Wasn't it better when we were just hanging out? Let's forget about the boys. This is a girls' sleepover. No boys allowed, right guys? Just like my stuttered Malay, my continued avoidance became an indication of my hidden deviance. My friends wanted to kiss their boyfriends, and I wanted to kiss my friends. It was imperative for me, though, to keep this inkling from blossoming into a rumor, because there were much worse consequences than just a small impression shift. Every queer youth is afraid of the consequences of coming out. Stories of too many kids ostracized, kicked out, and hate crime feeding into the pit of dread in each kid's stomach. The stories in Malaysia were a little different, though. It wasn't ostracization, it was police tips. Homes weren't lost, but raided, and hate crimes weren't crimes, but criminal executions. Stories straddle a fine line between fiction and reality, and as I got older, I learned that those ones were closer to campfire tales than anything else. Based on reality, but meant to scare. Gay marriage is illegal in Malaysia, but I was an American preteen. There was nothing for me to really worry about. The worst thing that happened to me was the same negative shift that occurred in some people's eyes when they realized I was a foreigner. And as I got older, I realized that wasn't anything to be scared of either. I had spent some of my most formative years in Malaysia, growing, learning, and meeting people who didn't hesitate at my American passport. Those were the people who shared their chendol instead of getting me an ice cream, who talked about Upin and Ethan when I talked about SpongeBob and Patrick, who taught me to say sama-sama when someone says terima kasih. Those were the people who looked at the gap in our understanding and got the tools to build a bridge that I could cross. And more often than not, when the time came for me to reveal the other gap in our understanding, the other difference between us, these were the people that didn't hesitate to ask the questions and take the steps to bridge that understanding. Except that I was way more likely to want to kiss Jane from 5th period instead of Joe from 3rd.